The countdown is almost over because Avengers Infinity War comes out next week, and to mark the occasion I've got a couple of Marvel videos that I want to do, starting off with this one, my top 5 favourite MCU villains. If there's one complaint that a lot of people have with the MCU is that for the most part their villains aren't really that great or memorable. I feel like that most MCU villains serve their general villain function in films, and that's guiding the hero on their hero journey, but every now and again you get that one villain that goes above and beyond that general villain function and gives us either something memorable, something to think about, a compelling villain, or just an entertaining and memorable villain, and these are the 5 villains that I think did that. Starting off at number 5 is Ultron from Age of Ultron. Ultron's not a compelling villain, you can't really latch onto him and relate to him because he's a robot trying to destroy the human race, but I felt like they did a really good job at making Ultron worthy of the Avengers coming together to fight him, because you saw him in the trailers and I was like, okay, a robot? Isn't this something that could have been an Iron Man 4? But then Age of Ultron came out and you saw what he wanted to do. He wanted to wipe out the human race by dropping a city out of the sky, and the fact that he was a very powerful and pretty unstoppable villain where he keeps escaping into the internet and uploading to a different and more powerful body. Yeah, we needed the Avengers to come and stop this guy. Plus he was menacing and memorable. James Spader as the voice of Ultron was awesome. So many great quotes in the film, like the one he says to Andy Serkis, "Keep your friends rich and your enemies rich, and wait to see which is which." Number 4 is a villain that I've read mixed reports on. Some people think he was an unnecessary villain, some people thought he was a great villain. I myself quite liked Zemo in Captain America Civil War. What I loved about Zemo and what I loved about the villain in general of Civil War is that it was not a big bad villain that they needed to fight. Marvel could have easily had that kind of villain for Civil War where Captain America wants to go fight him but the Sokovia Accords are preventing them from confronting the villain. But I loved how they went the different direction with Zemo, who was just a guy who lost his family in the Battle of Sokovia when the Avengers are fighting Ultron. So he wants to get revenge on the Avengers, but he knows that he cannot fight the Avengers because stronger and more powerful men have tried. So he hatches his plan to get the Avengers to turn on each other and kill each other, so then he gets his revenge by not necessarily getting his hands dirty per se, even though he did kill the Doctor in the bathtub, who was played by Joe Russo, but for the most part he doesn't get his hands dirty. Definitely one of the more unique Marvel villains. Number 3 is a villain that I guarantee that everyone's going to have on their list of top 5 MCU villains. It's Loki. It's funny because half of Loki's time in the MCU has been as a villain and the other half has been kind of an anti-hero slash you don't know what side he's on. But that first half he spent as a villain was really good, because in the first Thor film he just wanted to impress his dad and he wanted his dad to love him, and he kind of got the emotional conflict inside of him because he wanted Odin to love him, but he was also kind of risking Asgard at the same time. So he understood why, but he just didn't condole his actions by having the Frost Giants invade Asgard. You're like, okay, you can impress your dad in other ways, Loki, come on. And then he was the villain in the Avengers. He's leading the Chitauri into the Battle of New York, trying to wipe out the Earth, and Loki is just a completely memorable character all around. Tom Hiddleston, if Tom Hiddleston didn't play Loki, I wouldn't even be talking about him right now. I don't think anyway. He just brings this character to life in such a mischievous way. You're like, is Loki on our side? Is he not on our side? You know, God of Mischief. I just love that about Loki. And the chemistry between him and Thor is just so great. Like the part in Thor the Dark World where he's flying the spaceship through Asgard and he's like hitting all the things. He's like, did you miss one of those pillars? Loki is great, but again, who doesn't love Loki? Number 2 is the villain of the film that I watched last night in my Road to Infinity War MCU marathon. It is Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming. Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming is one of the more relatable MCU villains in the sense that he's not like a big super bad. He's just a guy who was screwed over, he lost his job, and now he's just turned to crime because he needs to find some way to support his family. And that's the part where you really gravitate towards him, because he's just a family man trying to provide for his daughter and his wife. And like I just said about Loki in the first Thor film, you look at Vulture and you're like, I understand where you're coming from, but you're doing bad stuff, so Spider-Man, take him down. And Michael Dan Keaton as Vulture was just so unbelievable. I was watching Spider-Man Homecoming last night. That scene in the car where he's taking Liz and Peter to the homecoming dance and he starts to figure out that Peter's Spider-Man, that creepy smile he gets on his face, and like how half his face is in red, and then when he figures out he's Spider-Man it goes green. That was really well done. I didn't even see that before. He's just so damn intense as that character, so you got the compellingness of the villain matched with Michael Keaton's awesome and intense performance, and you have, in my opinion, the second best MCU villain of them all. And number 1, my favourite MCU villain so far, you can probably tell who it is because you saw him in the thumbnail and I haven't mentioned him yet, it's Killmonger from Black Panther. Just like a Vulture, you look at Killmonger and you listen to his point of view and his ideas and you're like, yeah, I understand completely where you're coming from. He was sheltered out of Wakanda and he was banned man from Wakanda, and he sees the hypocrisy of Wakanda, and he also sees how Wakanda could help people out there like themselves who don't have enough to protect themselves in the world. So you're like, yeah, that's actually not a bad idea. Get Wakanda to help. They could be a really good boost to the world. And that's one of the reasons why Black Panther works so well as a film in general, is because of Killmonger and how you understand his motivations and how his presence and his villainous plan provides that conflict and provides that involving narrative. And just like with Loki and just like with Ultra, it is brought to life by an awesome performance from Michael B. Jordan. So those are my top 5 favourite MCU villains. I'm not going to do a top 5 worst MCU villains because in the build up to Infinity War, I just want to be completely positive. I don't want to dwell too much on the bad stuff. That being said, the worst MCU villain is easily Malekith. And stay tuned in the next couple of days because I will be doing a ranking video of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. I've been watching all the films building up to Infinity War, and I'm going to be ranking all 18 films, so stay tuned for that video. But in the meantime, let me know down there what are your top 5 favourite MCU villains and worst MCU villains if you want to. And if you want to see more of my stuff, click on one of these and I'll see you all next time.